Are you tired of feeling stuck no matter how hard you try to change? What if the real reason why you can't move forward or break this pattern is because of something within your subconscious mind? In this video, I will show you how you can break free of these limiting cycles that are holding you back and break the cycle for good. Hi, I'm Kirsten, and I'm trained as a clinical hypnotherapist and a transformational coach. I'm also the author of the book Power Now. We are going to dive into why you are stuck in a loop or stuck in a rut and you can't seem to break this habit or this pattern that you are in. And I'm going to be sharing with you how to actually break that cycle so that you can break free from that and shift to where you want to be. Now, all of this is from my perspective as someone who is trained as a clinical hypnotherapist and a transformational coach. I have been practicing clinical hypnotherapy for around 14 years now, and these are things that I have noticed while working with my own clients and their patterns, their cycles that they're in. So I'm going to explain to you from my perspective, working with the subconscious mind and working with emotions of how these habits and these cycles form and how you can break free of them. Now, first, it's super important to notice your emotions. So when you are stuck in a rut, for example, you will notice that it feels like you're stuck in this downward spiral. And you may even catch yourself saying things like, I get stuck in this downward spiral and it's so hard to break out of it. And I feel like I go into this spiral and I'm stuck there for days or weeks or even a month. And this is the basis of what it is. This is not stuff that I have made up or created myself. This is available online. And so this is the downward spiral of emotions. And it can start with things where it's ranking these emotions from kind of lightest negative emotions all the way down to the heaviest negative emotions where you are the most powerless. So it can start with something like boredom, or let's say that something happens during your day and that triggers you to feel frustrated or impatient or the overwhelm, right? How many times do we feel overwhelmed or disappointed lately? It happens a lot. So what happens if we indulge in these emotions, we keep repeating the story of the event and why it happened, it can start to trigger us to go into this downward spiral where we start blaming, well, it's the politics, it's the market, it's the inflation, whatever it is. We start to get angry. And what happens is eventually we start to go downward in this spiral. And I know it starts to become common where we begin to feel jealousy of others who are succeeding, or perhaps we start to feel insecure and unworthy of achieving our goals ourselves, or like it's almost impossible for us to make a change for ourselves, for us to shift. Other people can have the success, but not me, right? We start to go down into depression and powerlessness, where we feel, I just don't even have what it takes to change the world around me or to change my circumstances. I'm just stuck here for good because this is just life. And at the bottom of it is victimhood, victim mentality. So when something happens and we stay in this place of I'm the victim, then that means we are at the bottom of this spiral. Now, it's one thing to note that, if something happened to you, some event, someone hurt you, someone took advantage of you, and you were the victim of that event, it's one thing to acknowledge it, and acknowledging is always the first step. It's another thing if we allow ourselves to dwell upon that story and that event and to stay here, because then literally we are in this place of powerlessness. And when we're in that state, then we cannot change things about our circumstance, our feelings, or our life. So we acknowledge, okay, something bad happened and it hurt me and it shook me. It made me fall and tumble into this downward spiral, whatever caused me to be there. Now we start to use our mindset to shift out of that. So we can start to notice, okay, I'm at the bottom of this place, right? Acknowledging is first. How do I shift out of this? That's the mindset. So we ask ourselves a question, how do I shift out of this? How do I start to feel better? And it could be an action that we take. It could be something that we do. And I'm going to say, it always is an action that we take, because emotions are energy in motion. meaning it's energy. We need to shift that energetic feeling, and we need to shift upwards. As we see when we're in this downward spiral, we're stuck in a rut wherever we are, where we're just stuck in this disappointment and overwhelm, right? We're stuck here. Then we need to shift. How do I shift out of this rut? How do I get out of it? We want to go up higher. So we shift the energetic state, and we want to get into what is called the upward spiral of emotions. So as you see, it starts with contentment, belief that, okay, it is possible to make a change. It is possible that I can control my mind and my emotions. It is possible that I'm being led down the right path to something better, right? Which leads to hopefulness that, yes, things are going to change. I do have the power to make a change and to shift. And then we start to appreciate, okay, I really appreciate my surroundings. I appreciate what I have, right? And at the very top, you see love, freedom, joy, empowerment. These are the emotions at the top. So how do I shift from a negative state of disappointment, doubt, worry, and instead to appreciation? What can I do right now to trigger more happiness, right? It's always in the action that you take or in the questions that you ask yourself that leads to that action. So we want to shift out of this rut that we're in, this downward spiral, and we want to instead shift into an upward spiral. But how did we get here, this spiral of emotions? When you're stuck in a rut for so long, you're stuck in a habit or a pattern, perhaps you notice when stressful events happen, you're like, oh yeah, I automatically become overwhelmed and disappointed. Like automatically, I'm an overwhelmed person. Or perhaps when something stressful happens, you turn to rage or jealousy, or you automatically become insecure and feel this imposter syndrome that, well, of course I could never do this because I'm not as good as them. I'm not an expert. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Or you go down even lower into I'm powerless and there's nothing I can do. These energetic states, these states of emotions, we want to look at what is called the habit loop. So this is the habit loop. There is a trigger or a cue that happens. It could be something in your external environment. It could be something such as, every morning when you drive to work and there's traffic, that's your trigger to start to feel stressed. And that triggers the thought patterns of thinking of everything that you have to do, how you don't like that coworker, how there's just so much to be done today. And now you're starting to feel overwhelmed, right? And so for some people, you can get, for everyone, you can get addicted to these emotional states, these emotions. As Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about how you can get addicted to stress. You can get addicted to overwhelm, frustration, these things. If every single day you're in that loop and you're always feeling those feelings, perhaps you are stuck in this habit loop where if something stressful doesn't happen, you didn't go to work that morning, so you didn't sit in traffic, and you didn't think those negative, repetitive thoughts about work because it's your day off, then your mind can start to go looking for a trigger at home or wherever you are so that you can feel those emotions of that stress, that anger, that overwhelm, because those emotions are chemical reactions in your body, and your body can become addicted to those chemical reactions. And of course, there's an example we all know of a person who's so addicted to drama. They find drama in everything. They make everything dramatic. And we're like, how do they keep doing this? Why do they keep doing this? Because their body is addicted to those emotions. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily for you where you're at with what you're experiencing. This is one reason. This is one reason why you could be stuck in a loop. Another reason here, let's say, is that you have that stress at work, right? Let's stick with that. Stress is the trigger at work. It's been a long, hard day at work. So that stress is the trigger that when you get home, it triggers binge eating, and you are just eating a whole bowl of ice cream, and you got the Cheetos, you got the chips, whatever it is. You eat all of that, even though you know that you don't really want to eat that because you want to be healthier and you want to fit in your clothes better, right? But what happens is that stress triggers you to come home and eat that bowl of ice cream and all that junk. And momentarily, you're feeling better because you are numbing the stress. You're numbing those thought patterns that you want to avoid. And you are no longer feeling that stress anymore for a few moments. And instead, maybe you're feeling that high from the sugar rush from the ice cream, right? So your subconscious mind sees this as a solution. And here is the key in all of this, is that the trigger, it might be something that you're aware of, or it could be something in your subconscious mind that triggers, and it could be linked to a similar a time in your past where you felt the similar feeling. And that could be an event, a memory, just the feeling. It could be anything in your subconscious mind that we're unaware of right now, consciously unaware of, okay? But you could be aware of the trigger that happens externally, that was my work, that was the coworker, they triggered me and I felt angry or stressed. Now, sometimes we have actions or behaviors or a response that's unconscious, where you all of a sudden you snap out of it and you're like, how did I just eat this whole bowl of ice cream? Or there's some people when they're stressed, they pull their hair out and they'll look down and they see their hair has been pulled out. And they're like, how did I just pull that out? I wasn't aware I was doing it, right? That can be an unconscious behavior, or it can be something that you are aware of. You are aware that I'm eating this bowl of ice cream, but I need to because it makes me feel better, right? So it could be unconscious or conscious, that action, that behavior, that response. But the reward is that you are no longer feeling that feeling or thinking those thoughts, that you are escaping your mind for a few moments, you are numbing that feeling, and your subconscious mind then starts to realize, hey, you know what? That actually worked. So the next time you experience that stressful trigger, coworker, whatever it was, you come home and now you're just reaching for that bowl of ice cream again because, hey, I felt better last time, so that means it's going to work again. And so then you start to numb your mind again. And the more often this happens, the more it becomes automated. And it's a habit where there is no conscious thought. You're stressed, you head straight to the fridge and you look at what's in your shelves, what's in your pantry, and you start to eat. Whatever that is for you. So think of your own habit in your life, that area where you are stuck in a cycle or in a rut and you're wanting to break free of that. Think about, perhaps you're aware of the trigger. What triggers this action in the habit for you? It could be a thought, a feeling. It could be something externally that triggers the thought and the feeling. And then there's the action that you perform, the habit, right? The response, the binge eating or snapping at people, or going in bed and just giving up, pulling the blankets over and saying, okay, I give up, I need to hide, and just going into that freeze mode, right? And the reward is that feeling that you get from doing it. And oftentimes for a lot of people, not everyone, that reward is just numbing the feeling that you want to escape from. So that's where you can start to see that some of these emotions can start to become your go-to. When something bad happens, I understand for myself, as an example, it used to be when something bad happens, it would just trigger a lot of overwhelm, which then would lead to insecurities and depression and feeling powerless, that I don't have what it takes to change this. This is just my destiny. This is where I'm meant to be, right? That could become my trigger. When life got too tough, I shut down and I hide and I go into that freeze mode. So that can become a loop that we're stuck in. Now, the good news here is you can break free of this loop. You can retrain your mind. So instead of something stressful or overwhelming happening where you go into that freeze mode and you shut down, instead of that, you can go into a creative state instead. So when we look back here at the habit loop, I'll talk about my past client, for example. In her position at work, she was feeling very stressed, very overwhelmed, wondering if maybe she has to have a new career because maybe she's not so efficient anymore where she's at. Maybe it's too much for her. Those are the thoughts in her mind because she's just feeling so overwhelmed, thinking, I need to go on stress leave and maybe I need to just take a break or switch careers entirely. So her job was her trigger. It was too stressful, too overwhelming. She did not feel good enough to do it. And she would freeze up and not get as much done, right? So it triggered her freeze response. It triggered the overwhelm, the stress, those thoughts about herself that I need to give up and find something new. And really then what you see is she is stuck in this habit, this loop, where maybe there's parts of her subconscious mind or her body that was addicted to the stress, as Dr. Joe Dispenza explains. Or maybe it's just that this leads to an action that then she would numb those the feelings of stress by doing something else, drinking or eating or something like that. So what happened is we work with the subconscious mind. And the main thing is we always will look at what's the trigger. So even if you don't consciously know what your trigger is, your subconscious mind will know what the trigger is. And if it's your coworker, if it's a repetitive thought, if it's, your job, then what we do is we will work on neutralizing that trigger so that that trigger is not triggering that overwhelm response, that fight or flight response, whatever it is. We are neutralizing the trigger, meaning that when that event happens, because we can't change other people, if your coworker is annoying, we can't change their behavior, right? We can't control the stock market, the elections, things like that. So there's always going to be these triggers in life that are stressful. However, what you can do is neutralize their ability so that they're not pushing your button anymore. They're not triggering your stressed and overwhelmed button. We neutralize that so that whatever happens, it happens. And so then that action or behavior is no longer there. You're no longer going into that freeze state. You're no longer coming home and binging on all the ice cream or shutting down and hiding. You're no longer numbing yourself from these emotions. You're no longer doing something to just try to shut your mind off. Instead, the trigger is neutralized. And now what happens is when this woman, when she encounters that annoying coworker, or there's a lot of new tasks at work that adds to the challenges that she has to complete, instead, it now triggers her newfound confidence. So we created a healthy habit loop where she now feels confident. She now believes in herself. She sees these challenges as opportunities to grow and do better. And in fact, she's starting to enjoy this because what's happening, because she no longer has anything to numb, she is now experiencing the newfound sense of confidence. She is now feeling that she is stronger and better able to manage the stressors that come her way, the challenges that come her way. She is doing better overall. And because now it feels really good that her confidence has increased, she has the ability to handle more at work, and the things that used to stress her out no longer stress her out anymore. It's reinforcing this habit loop. Because also what we did was we healed whatever it is that the mind is wanting to run away from or to numb. We heal that as well, so that the mind no longer needs this action or behavior to numb itself as a reward. So we neutralize and we heal the unhealthy habit that's in the way, and then we create instead a healthy habit. It could be, for some people, they have the goal that, hey, when I go to work and there's those same old stressors that are there, instead, it can trigger you to perform better, to feel more confident, to be more creative, to remain calm. And then that feeling of, wow, I did it, I'm getting more done. And with this example of my past client, what happened was her coworkers and her boss started to notice that her behavior had shifted and that she was managing better. So she felt even better, and she started to even ask herself, maybe I can take on more. Maybe I can go for a promotion. Right? She started to challenge herself because she felt that strength that now, since she has healed, she can do better. And it felt more natural for her. Some people might want to set up a habit of, okay, I want to wake up and I want to go for a run in the morning, right? So that's something that you can do. The trigger that happens, your alarm goes off. Now this triggers you going for a run, and the reward, well, you get all those good chemical feelings of going for the run, and you're in shape, and you're starting your day off with doing something active, and starting the day with doing something difficult makes the rest of the day feel easier and better. So the whole thing is using this habit loop of looking at what is happening within the subconscious that's being triggered, and what is the actual habit or the response that's being triggered, that either you are most likely aware of the habit that you want to shift and change, or maybe you're not. You feel completely out of control when you're doing that habit. So we look at shifting that. And we're also shifting, what was the reason that habit was in place? Was it numbing a feeling? Was it hiding from something? Was it I don't know. I don't know what you're getting out of it, but your subconscious mind knows. So we guide your mind into showing us what you are getting out of it, what's the trigger or the cue, and then we know how to shift this action, behavior, habit, response. So when you start to feel that a stressor happens in life, that instead of going straight away to overwhelm and insecurity and feeling guilt, like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this done. And feeling just completely unworthy of, I'm not good enough, I should give up. Instead of triggering those feelings, putting you into this negative spiral, what happens is that stressor can occur. And instead, you can trigger belief and hopefulness that, oh, maybe life is trying to teach me a new lesson. And this is here to help me to grow and become stronger. And then you can start to appreciate, well, look how strong I'm becoming. Look how much better I feel. Hey, I feel way more confident too. So instead, that stressor can help you to go into a positive spiral of emotions. Because as you're aware, there are people that perform very well under pressure, and then there are people that fall apart. And that all has to do with this habit loop. That pressure happens. Some people perform really well under pressure, or the trigger happens and some people fall apart. That is something that you can change when you're working with your subconscious mind. Now, here's something that I want to show you as well. This is the map of consciousness, and this has to do with your emotions, your energetic state. So this, again, is available online, and it talks about your emotions. So when we're in this negative state, so I don't use the words good emotions or bad emotions. I say that they are comfortable or uncomfortable emotions. They are positive or negative emotions. They are emotions. It's energy that is in motion. So when you're in a deep state of guilt or shame or fear or grief, you are down in a lower state of consciousness, meaning that when you're in this lower energetic state and lower vibrational state, your thought patterns are going to be in this downward spiral. Your thought patterns are going to be fear-based or unworthiness and imposter syndrome, and this is impossible and I'm never going to get it done, because those are the equal matches, the negative energy and then the lower state of consciousness. It matches with the lower state of energy, the lower vibration. Those are an equal match. And that's why when you are in a down state, that your thoughts are very negative as well. And that's why when you are in a positive state where you experience joy and love and peace and enlightenment of learning your lesson that life was trying to teach you, that's enlightenment. Like, oh, wow, that lesson was to make me better. That lesson was to get me on a better path where I am more happy and more successful, right? When we shift our consciousness into acceptance and joy and love and peace, we are going higher up on this scale. So that means our thoughts and vibrational energies are also going upwards. And that's why as we're feeling happy, we start to appreciate more things, or we have more passion for what we're doing, more enthusiasm. And at the very top, then we start to feel this love for ourselves. Instead of criticizing ourselves when things are going bad, we're feeling more happy and free, more joyful and empowered. You will see this empowerment at the very top. So all of these things go hand in hand, and it starts with the habit loop and just becoming aware of what is the trigger around you. Does it trigger a thought response where you start to attack yourself and you become overly critical and then you self-sabotage? Or does the trigger happen and then it triggers some sort of limiting behavior? Whatever it is, that's something that you need to become aware of in order to change it. And then knowing that you can shift this, especially within the subconscious mind, you can shift it to create that upward spiral when that stressful trigger happens instead. And what I've noticed with the subconscious mind is that this can happen at any age. You can restructure the way your habits are being triggered and they are showing up in your life. So with this spiral of emotion, for example, you can switch your behaviors to feel these energies more often. Now, I highly recommend that you read the book from Dr. Joe Dispenza, breaking the habit of being yourself, because he does talk about how our body can get addicted to the emotions that we're feeling. And that's why we could start to feel those things every single day. As well as becoming aware of the fact that it's something like we think 80 or 90% of the thoughts that we think throughout the day are repetitive, and another 80 to 90% of those are also negative. So you can see that if we're thinking the same thoughts, that's going to lead to taking the same actions, and then you are then getting the same results. So in order to get out of the rut, in order to break free from that, you need to break the cycle. That means breaking the habit loop, the thought pattern loop that you're in. And how can you shift that thought pattern loop? If you suddenly become aware of the fact that you are just in a state of overwhelm and doubtful and worried, you can acknowledge, okay, I'm feeling doubtful, I'm worried and overwhelmed right now, and I'm on this negative downward spiral. I don't want to go into this downward spiral, so I want to actually go into the upward spiral instead. How do I shift from a state of overwhelm into a state of hopefulness? And here's the key. So you ask yourself a better question. How do I shift from here, where I am, to where I want to go? And the answer is always going to be an action that you can take. Why? Because emotions are energy in motion. So it is doing some sort of motion, some sort of action to shift your vibrational state from the overwhelm. What can I do to feel more happy or hopeful? Maybe it's journaling, breath work, going to the gym, something like that. I recommend that you create a list of things that help you to shift your state, because if you can shift your state of emotions, that's where your power lies. If you are being triggered by other people and they're always putting you into other states of rage, jealousy, insecurity, whatever it is, if other people are pressing your buttons and putting you into this downward spiral, that means that those other people have power over you. Instead, if you can acknowledge where you're at and where you want to be, and then you ask yourself the question, what can I do now to shift to where I want to be? And then you take that action, then you are in control of your mind. You are in control of your emotions. And as you know, when you are in this scale of this map of consciousness and you're higher up in the scale, you're going to have those more creative thoughts. You're going to have your vibe that attracts your tribe. So you're putting out your positive energy, and it leads to more positive thought patterns, positive actions, and the positive rewards and outcomes. So remembering that you do have that power to shift from that spiral that you're in, to shift to the spiral that you want to be in, moving up in the scale so your thoughts become clearer and more happy. And becoming aware of the fact, is this a habit that I'm in? Is this something that I repeatedly do and think? And becoming aware of breaking that habit or the loop. So the way I do that with my clients is through clinical hypnotherapy. I do have my Power Now method that I take people through, where we're using clinical hypnosis, and I guide the subconscious mind to revealing what is the trigger that's happening. And my clients, most of them, they're aware of the habit or the response that they have that they want to stop doing because it's getting in their way and ruining their life. And then sometimes they're not even aware of what's the reward that they get out of that action or habit being there. So the subconscious mind can then show us, maybe it's that numbing your emotions, numbing your thoughts. And from there, we can heal that. We can heal that, like I said, using hypnosis and some other powerful somatic techniques that I used to. We heal what is feeling unhealed within the subconscious mind. So that eliminates the need for this habit. And we also neutralize the trigger. And we create a new trigger to trigger a healthy action or habit response instead. So if you would like to learn more about my process and how I do that with the Power Now method and how I work with people, I do work with people one-on-one, and I work with people online. And something like this, where it's online video calling, except I don't use Zoom, I use something more private. And the sessions are all tailored towards you and what you're facing, your goals and your struggles, where you're at in your life. And it's tailored to help you to heal these limiting patterns that are coming up for you, and then to instead to create healthy habits that will help you to achieve your goals. And so if you are curious about knowing more about that, you can purchase a copy of my book. I do talk about the subconscious mind and actions and habits and how you can rewire your mind. And if you know that you're craving the one-on-one support because you're ready to just dive in, transform your life, and create new results to stop that stress, eliminate that stress, and to feel your best, if you know you're ready for that one-on-one support, then you can go to the link below and go to my website, and you can book a consultation with me, and we could chat about your goals and see if this program that I have is the right fit for you. Otherwise, I hope you learned a lot from this video, and please let me know, what was your biggest aha moment from this video, your biggest takeaway? And is there a habit or a loop that you get stuck in that you want to change? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video. It really helps me to grow and get my content out to people who are looking for it. I appreciate you so much for being here. Live your life feeling powerful. I'll see you in the next video.